May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So we hear these stories about forgiveness every once in a while, and they blow our minds. Like in 2006, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, a young man breaks into a one-room schoolhouse of an Amish community, and he shoots 10 girls. And the Amish community forgives him? People at Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Folks are sitting, reading scripture and praying together as Christians do. And a person comes in, a man comes in, he sits there for an hour with them, and then he shoots 9 of them dead. These are atrocities. These are evil. And they forgive him? Nelson Mandela, not a snowflake. Whatever you might want to say about Nelson Mandela, he's not a snowflake. After decades in prison, under the oppressive rule of apartheid, he says, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that it kills your enemies. And Desmond Tutu, in the same country at the same time, he says, without forgiveness, there is no future. Without forgiveness, there is no future. So in the gospel lesson for today, Peter stretches our imagination. Peter has done this before. He stretches our imagination. Peter has stretched our imagination a few weeks ago when he pointed to Jesus and said, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. When the Messiah was expected to be a political and military strongman who controls the wealth and controls the power. And Jesus comes along and Jesus says, love your enemies and give without expecting having anything return. And he walks into situations where he's got almost no food and he says, let's feed everybody. This is what Jesus is like. And Peter points to him and says, you're the Messiah. Peter stretches our imagination, stretches our understanding of who God is and who the Messiah is. And now Peter stretches our understanding again because as I was in conversation with our young ladies here just this morning, right? How many times can you forgive? You forgive one time? Well, maybe. Everybody deserves a second chance, right? Forgive 2 times? Kind of depends on the track record. How about forgiving yourself? Sometimes it's really hard to forgive yourself. Forgive 3 times? I don't know. The best indicator of future behavior is past performance, right? 3 strikes, you're out. Peter stretches our imagination. He says, Lord, should we forgive as many as 7 times? Okay, let's get out the ledger. Check, check, check. All right, no. He stretched our ledger out a little bit. Check, check, check. 4 more checks. Another check, number 7. And of course, number 8, you're out. Jesus says, no, not 7 times, but 77 times. So 75, 76, 77, and number 78, you're out. Or unless you translate it as 70 times 7, 490 times, 486, 87, 88, 489, 490, and number 491, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and you're over. Is that right? Is that what Jesus is trying to tell us? Jesus is using a way of speech called hyperbole. Hyperbole is a 50-cent word for when you overstate your case in order to make your case. When you say things in a huge way in order to make your point. And Jesus' point is not that we stretch our ledgers out to 77 or 490. Jesus is not stretching our ledgers out at all. He's throwing the ledger away completely. Because when you forgive, you don't keep count. Now, does that mean that we have to be doormats and let people walk all over us? No, it does not. In fact, Jesus is not a doormat by any means. Jesus does not let people get away with stuff in the Gospels. In fact, Jesus gets really mad at people. He gets mad at people for two reasons. Number one, he gets mad at people for hypocrisy. And number two, he gets mad at people for forgetting the love of the poor. And he will go on a big old tear, a whole chapter full against those people and those people. And he's really mad. So he doesn't just let people get away with things. And one time, he goes into the temple and he drives the money changers out of the temple and causes a riot. This is in all four Gospels at different places, but in all four Gospels he does it because people are exploiting other people with the name of God, taking advantage of people and using their belief in God to get money out of them when they're desperate. So Jesus is not a doormat, and he does not let people just hurt him at random. He does go to the cross, and now we got 5 sermons there. But at other points in the Gospels, in the Gospel of Luke, at one point, people have got him up to the edge of a cliff. They're going to throw him off the cliff, and he slips away. It's not time. And at another point in the Gospel of John, people pick up stones to stone him to death, and he slips away. It's not time. So forgiveness does not mean that we are supposed to allow ourselves just to be hurt without taking any kind of action or doing anything about it. So it's neither the ledger nor the doormat. So what is it? I would suggest that one way to think about forgiveness is the insistence on being human with each other. I am a human being. And you are a human being. And we're not better than each other and not worse. That means you cannot treat me badly. But I will not treat you badly either. And if someone is trying to hurt me, I will prevent them from hurting me. That's okay. But I'm not going to take revenge. Because revenge is based on the idea that someone else can take away some of our dignity. Someone else can take away some of our humanity. We got to get it back from them by hurting them. And that's making an idol out of that person who has hurt us. An idol. Because our dignity comes from God alone. From God alone, and nothing can ever take it away, no matter how anybody treats us. So we honor the presence of God in ourselves, and we may remove ourselves from someone's presence. We may defend ourselves, but we won't take revenge. And we won't engage in humiliating other people, even if they try to humiliate us. Jesus is God's insistence on being human with us. In Jesus, God comes to us. Jesus is God's forgiveness toward us. And if we think of it that way, then forgiveness is a journey. It's not just something that you do in one moment. It's not a button you push or a faucet you turn on and off. It's a whole life journey. And it takes many steps. And some of those steps are kind of early. For example, one of the earliest steps of forgiveness is to say to yourself, you know what? It's not right that that person should treat me this way. It's not right that this culture should treat me in this manner. It's not right that I should treat myself in this way. That's a step, because you're beginning to honor the presence of God in yourself, but you're not spewing vindictive hatred at someone else either. Another step is what Jesus told us to do last week. Go and talk to the person on your own, and if they don't listen, go take another person with you and be persistent. If they still don't listen, take a whole bunch of people with you. And if the church, and they don't listen to the church, and so on like that, you know. In some cases, forgiveness is a small thing. If it's a small offense and your relationship is strong, you might just let it go. You might just not worry about it. In another case, reconciliation is quick. Say, honey, you didn't mop the floor like you said. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go do it, you know. And it's quick. And sometimes forgiveness is a long, long journey. You know, there are people who have got to know folks who have murdered their own sons, and have talked with them and listened to them and have built relationships with them and have come to love them. Jesus explodes our understanding. He doesn't just stretch our understanding. He doesn't just stretch our imaginations. He blows it to smithereens. Because these people are not crazy. Forgiveness is crazy. God is crazy. So then Jesus tells us this parable. It's terrifying. It's a terrifying parable about a master, and he has a servant, and the servant owes the master $100 trillion. Okay, 10 talents is like that much money. All right. Again, Jesus is speaking in hyperbole. He's overstating his point in order to make his point. All right, $1 million gajillion is how much this servant owes his master. 10 talents, it would take you 150,000 years to earn enough money with regular wages in order to pay off 10 talents. That's how much 10 talents is. And the servant says, please, please, can I have some more time? And the master not only gives him more time, but has compassion and has mercy on him, and forgives the entire debt. God is crazy. And then the servant goes out and he runs into somebody that owes him about $10,000, something like that. $10,000. He says, you have to pay right now. And the other guy says, give me some time, please. And the unforgiving servant says, no, right now. And he throws him in jail. And the master hears about this and he's furious. And so he takes the unforgiving servant and he throws him in jail to be tortured until the last penny is paid. Blah. Okay, there's something this parable does not mean. This parable does not mean that you have to like and adore and in your heart genuinely love people who are hurting you or hitting you or screaming at you and calling you names. That's not what it means. It does mean that we are supposed to be terrified. It is appropriate to be terrified because when we fall off the journey of forgiveness, then we put ourselves in prison and we torture ourselves. Nelson Mandela said that when he walked out of prison after decades in prison under the apartheid regime, he said, if I did not leave my rage and resentment in the prison, then I would still be in prison. I would not be free. So we need to be on that journey. It doesn't mean we have to be perfect. It doesn't mean we have to have reconciliation right away. It doesn't mean that we have to be walked all over, but it means we have to be honoring the presence of God in ourselves and one another and in the people around us, even those who have not behaved anywhere near in the image of God toward us. One more story about forgiveness, and I wanted to remember the names properly, so I wrote them down. All right. And I left the piece of paper in the other room where I looked at it. Okay. So I don't remember the first name of Lady Sales. I think it was not Juliana. Nope. All right, I'll just call her Lady Sales. She was married to a guy named Sir John Henry Sales in the early 1800s, early 1840s. And Sir John Henry and she were stationed in India, and they were a part of the British Empire. And at that time, the British Empire invaded Afghanistan. Not a good idea. And they lost really bad. And Lady Sales and Sir John Henry Sales were taken prisoner, along with many other British soldiers. And the British soldiers and Sir John Henry were treated extremely badly, atrociously badly, abused horribly in their captivity. And they were taken captive by the Mohmand tribe of Afghans. And Lady Sales got this diary of her husband while she was in captivity, and she read the diary and she saw how horribly he had been treated. But she was released along with some other folks. She returned to India. She returned to Britain. And it bothered her that her husband had been treated in this way. It goaded her. She could not let it go. She had to do something because this evil may not stand. Right? Sometimes when you say to yourself, this evil cannot stand. So what was she going to do? Was she going to advocate for another invasion of Afghanistan to punish the Mohmand tribe? Was she going to get on the internet and type out all kinds of hateful, vindictive venom against the Mohmand tribe or somebody or other? Here's what she did. She funded an extra hospital bed in one of the hospitals in Jalalabad that was reserved for a member of the Mohmand tribe. Always. We believe in a power and a presence and a life and a hope in this world that is deeper than any evil that could ever have been done to us, that we have ever done to ourselves, that we have ever done to someone else. And our lives are a journey of witness to and participation with that power in our world. Jesus sweeps us up into that reality every day. Every day we're returned to the journey. That's forgiveness. Thanks be to God.